Good morning all and welcome to our virtual licensing subcommittee. My name is Councillor Emma Parker and I am Chairman of Licensing for Dorset Council. Before we go into the meeting, I will just go over some housekeeping rules. This is a public meeting and it will be recorded live on YouTube. We do have a chat bar. That chat bar is purely there if you have any technical issues. So if any problems that you have, you can't hear us, whatever, just put something in the chat bar. Democratic Services will be keeping an eye on the chat bar, but the councillors that are in this meeting this morning will not be, we won't have any access to the chat bar. Please mute your microphones and turn cameras off when you are not speaking. When you are asked to speak, if you haven't been introduced, then please state your name before speaking. Please keep background noise to a minimum, and can we please turn off any mobile alerts that you may have on your phones or on your computer. And now I would like to hand the meeting over to Councillor Les Fry.
Good morning, everybody. I am Councillor Les Fry, representing Dorchester West. Welcome to this virtual licensing committee. I would now like to ask my fellow subcommittee members to introduce themselves. Councillor Parker.
Good morning. My name is Councillor Emma Parker and I represent the Puddletown and Lower Winterbourne ward.
Thank you.
Sorry, excuse me, can I just interrupt? It's Elaine here. We haven't done the chair proposals and second.
No, that comes on to after the introductions.
Oh, okay. Apologies.
Well, we can do it now.
That's okay. I'm happy to do it now.
Brian.
Okay, I'm Councillor Brian Heatley from Rodwell and Wyke in Weymouth. And while I'm here, I'd like to nominate Councillor Fry as the chair of this meeting.
And I will second that.
Thank you both for your support. I'm happy to proceed as chair of this committee today. Thank you all. Okay, I would now like the council officers to introduce themselves, please, starting with the committee clerk.
Good morning, I'm Elaine Tibble. I'm a Democratic Services Officer for Dorset Council.
Thank you, Elaine.
Thank you.
Thank you. The legal representative is?
Good morning, my name's Lara Autry. I'm a solicitor with Dorset Council.
Thank you, Lara. The report author, the licensing team leader is?
Thank you. My name is Aileen Powell.
Thank you. I would now ask the parties and the representative in attendance to introduce themselves, starting with, please, the applicant. Would you like just to turn your camera on and just to say hello, please?
Hello, can you see me? Video isn't working. We couldn't use your wig. It says we can't use your.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
I mean, okay, turn the camera on. I'm trying again. I'm not sure why it isn't working. Okay, so video isn't working. Hello, my name is Penny Strong. I have been a partner in Dorset Nectar Cider Farm.
That's fine. Thank you very much, Penny. That's all we need at this moment. Thank you.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no responsible authorities today. Now, any person who has made a representation who has completed their notice of attendance and stated they wish to speak, I will call you by the list supplied by the notice of attendance that were now returned. Now, what I'm going to do now is to go through the list. If you could just kindly turn on your camera, say good morning, introduce yourself, and then mute and turn off again, please. The first person is Yvonne Dobson.
I don't believe she's entered, Chair.
Thank you. Roger Miles.
Good morning, my name is Roger Miles.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miles. Mr. Conroy. Mr. Conroy, I think you're muted, sir. I can see you but can't hear you. That's better. No, you're not. We're not picking you up at all. Can anybody else hear Mr. Conroy?
No.
No.
Okay, well, I'm afraid we'll have to proceed. We can't hear you at the moment. Whether you can continue to see if you can sort your technical problems out. Thank you. I shall move on. Mr. Morley.
Hello. Yes, hello.
Good morning. We can see you and hear you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have we got anybody else? Aileen?
I think that is it, Chair.
Yes, there is one other.
Sorry, yes, I'm with Penny here. Ryan Strong, Dorset Actor Cider.
Good morning, and thank you for introducing yourself.
Oh, Chair, we have Yvonne Dobson in the lobby, so she's just entered the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So we'll wait to Miss Dobson joins in. And Yvonne Dobson, are you there?
Yes, Dobson, I am here.
Thank you very much. That's fine. Thank you very much for introducing yourself. If you'd like to mute and turn your camera off for the moment, please. Roy, you were going to come in then. Okay, are we? Can you see us all still? I can't see Brian at the moment. I take it you can see all three of us, can you? Councillor Heatley, is your camera on?
I've just turned it on. There I am.
Thank you very much. Perfect. Thank you very much. Some general housekeeping, please. Please, can I ask that you follow the ground rules for this meeting? Only speak invited to by the chair, please. If you have not been introduced before, please state your name or we've spoken to everybody. Please mute your microphone and turn your camera off when you're not speaking, other than the councillors that are on this panel, please. After each party has spoken, I will go around all the parties, starting with the members of the subcommittee, to see if they have any questions for the speaker. And I think that's about it for the moment. The reason for keeping muted, please, is to keep background music. None of us can control the dogs or people bringing you a cup of coffee or anything else, so please keep muted at all the time and turn off any mobiles and alerts on your computers. Thank you very much. I know we do have apologies from Councillor John Andrews and Councillor Parker. Thank you very much for stepping in at short notice. I know that Councillor Andrews couldn't attend today. Do we have any councillors, any declarations of interest?
I don't have any, Chair.
No, thank you. None of us.
None,
I do neither. Thank you, Councillor Heatley, as well. Thank you very much. Do we have any urgent business?
No, Chair.
Thank you very much. The case before us today is the variation for the Strong Orchard at Waytown. Can I pass over to the licensing team leader, please, to outline the details of the application?
Thank you, Chair. You may. This is an application to extend a current licence that permits the supply of alcohol both on and off the premises between the hours of 10 AM and 10 PM. The hours that are being applied for would increase the hours that would be available for the alcohol sales and add entertainment in various forms to the licence. The exact details and times are contained within the report. The entertainment applied for is mostly from 9 or 10 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night, with some extra hours on New Year's Eve. I need to point out the effects of the Live Music Act 2012 and the Legislative Reform Entertainment Licensing Order 2014, which actually makes most of the entertainment exempt entertainment between the hours of 8 AM and 11 PM when there is up to 500 people in an audience, and the premises is open and licensed or authorised for consumption of alcohol on the premises. The entertainment this applies to is plays, performance of dance, live music and recorded music, but not to films. I also need to point out that Morris dancing and anything similar has always been exempt, and so is any music that is an integral part of that performance. Educational films are also exempt. The 2012 Act also states that any conditions relating to any of this entertainment would not have any effect between the hours of 8 AM and 11 PM when there are less than 500 people in an audience. It is quite common for applications like this to cause unease in the local community, The Licensing Act is written so that applicants are steered towards getting permissions to allow them to act within a licence rather than actually specifying the dates or the times that they will actually be open, and frequently using the full extent of their licence every day. This was more usual under the previous acts. The subcommittee must consider what is appropriate in the circumstances of each application as it is applied for and how it is intended to be used. One way to do this could be to set an appropriate limit on the number of attendees at any event, bearing in mind that if this were to be less than 500 for most of the entertainment, it could only come into effect after 2300 hours. Alternatively, limits could be placed as to the number of events that are allowed under the licence, although it also must be made clear that there is no mechanism for preventing up to 15 temporary event notices being applied for to cover other events in any calendar year. Subcommittee can only consider matters that relate to the 4 licensing objectives of the prevention of crime and disorder, prevention of public nuisance, public safety, which is on the premises, and protection of children. Again, that relates to the protection of children from harm on the premises. The matters must be under the direct control of the licence holders, and they must also relate to the time and events when the licence will be in force. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Aileen. Right, I'm now going to go around to everybody, see if they've got anybody's got any questions for Aileen Powell. Emma Parker.
Yes, I have a question for Aileen. Aileen, do you know if any attends have been applied for this premises previously for events?
I did check earlier. Obviously, we've had nothing this year because nothing much has been going on in the past year. So I did check 2019. The only temporary event notice that I could see were for stalls at other events to sell the cider.
Okay, and another question: have there been any concerns raised from the members of the public regarding this premises? I would say over probably the last 2 years, because like I said, I think the last year it's going to be very difficult to put anything on that. But I just wondered if anything had come through to licensing of any issues.
No, it hasn't come to our attention at all.
Okay, I have no further questions for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Councillor Heatley.
Can I check whether I've got the implications of the 212 Act correct? It is that much of the material that's in this licensing application about entertainment, provided there are less than 500 people, and whatever is going on between 8 and 11 p.m. are pretty much irrelevant, and we cannot make any conditions about that.
Yes, that is correct. Right. It was designed specifically to encourage live music in small venues, in pubs and everything like that. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. I have no questions there. Does the applicants have any questions for Aileen? Mr. Mrs. Strong?
No, I don't have any questions. I just wanted at some stage to be able to describe the kind of venue that we are.
Thank you very much. We will come to you shortly and you can explain what you're doing and talking about it. But any questions for Aileen at the moment? And that's where we'd like for other people listening into this meeting, just any pertinent questions for Aileen Powell at this moment. Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to go through the list again of the people. Have they got any particular questions, though people that are also in this meeting? Because we've got no responsible authorities, so I'm going to go straight to the people here. Mrs. Dobson, Yvonne Dobson, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Roger Miles?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite clear what it is you as a committee are opining on then.
Aileen, would you like to answer that then, please?
The committee will be making a decision on the application. The application doesn't actually contain any limits to any numbers. The effect of the Live Music Act only has effect for any events that are under 500 people in an audience. So they need to decide the license in light of all of that and in light of everything that is in the application and all the representations that are made.
Mr.
Miles, you're looking confused. Would you like that clarified at all?
Yeah, I am confused. I'm not quite sure what the purpose of the license is. Are you saying that a license is not required for entertainment between the hours of 8 and whatever other hour it was?
If you have a license that allows you to have on sales of alcohol, so where you are selling to people who are on the premises and sat down at the premises, the Live Music Act removed or allowed you to not need a license for entertainment when there was up to 500 people on the premises between the hours of 8 a.m. and 11 p.m.
And that is beyond our control. That is the
Yeah.
Licensing Act and beyond the councillor's authority.
Okay, so the constraint is the hours then.
The constraint is the hours for the alcohol potentially, because obviously the hours of the alcohol license will affect that. So you can't have entertainment up to 11 o'clock at the moment because the hours are restricted to 8 o'clock on the current license. Now, whilst all of this is true for the first time the license is granted, if the license were to be reviewed later on, then the committee could, at that stage, but not at this stage, they could put a condition onto a license to say that none of these freedoms, none of these exemptions apply. It is an incredibly complex piece of legislation that the government gave us, I'm afraid.
And we all have to work with it as best we can. And the one thing that it is good, Mr. Miles, it does have a reviewability in it.
Yes.
And that is what is very, very helpful. The rest is complicated, but we have to work with what we've got.
So what do you mean by a reviewability?
Well, go on, Ellie.
How does it work in practice?
Right, a review is something that anybody can apply for if there's been a problem at the premises. It has to be evidentially based, so we would expect there to have been problems. The licence can, anybody, including yourself, could apply for a review of the licence. That will go through exactly the same process as this application has, so it will go out to public consultation, and then it would follow exactly the same process. There would be a hearing and members would decide that review as well.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Miles?
I think so.
Thank you very much. Mr. Conroy. Can we hear you now? No, we still can't hear you, I'm afraid. No, I think you obviously have technical problems at your end on your device.
Chair, Mr. Conroy could type any questions he has in the sidebar as a solution to this.
Can you hear us, Mr. Conroy? So if you've got questions, if you go to the chat bar and then type them in, we will pick them up. So whilst you type the questions in, I'm going to go move to the next person, but then I will get Elaine on Democratic Services to keep an eye out for your questions, and you can put them in that way and we can respond to your questions. Okay, so if you'd like to turn your camera off, please. Mr. Morley, I see you've got your hand up. Sorry, but I'm just going through the queue.
Yes, can you hear me, see me?
Yes, I can see and hear you.
Good. Just to follow up the previous question from Mr. Miles, given that we're in an area of outstanding natural beauty, what I heard was that seemingly the Act provides or allows any person in any location, regardless of the surrounds, to conduct entertainment for up to 500 people with seemingly no restraint whatsoever as to the extent and the activity of that entertainment going on. Is that a correct interpretation?
It is a correct interpretation in as far as it goes. There has to be an alcohol licence in place, so the government deemed it appropriate that the alcohol licence was a sufficient control to cover those sorts of events. As I explained previously, there is this safety net, if you like, of the review. So if it does become a problem, because what the government decided was that they didn't think that most of these things should cause a problem. So for those few that did cause a problem and that could be shown to actually be causing a problem, there is this review procedure that the license can be brought back and we can put something on it at that point that would make it the Live Music Act exemptions go away.
Equally, should the premises become a problem, and and there is evidence, complaints against it the license can be revoked and taken away in extreme circumstances.
Yes.
So the although it might seem frustrating to all of those listening, the Act has been written such to encourage live music and entertainment, but there is a strong power of review with evidenced complaints that can be looked at and reviewed, and then the license is brought back.
Yes.
Right. And would I be right in thinking, because it's very alarming to consider that there could be up to 500 visitors to this site, which is in the middle of an almost inaccessible area of West Dorset. The thoughts of potentially 250 vehicles with 2 in each coming down these country lanes, has the Highways Authority been consulted, or
Mr. Morley, it's not a relevant factor in a licensing issue. We can only constrain ourselves to the 4 issues: the prevention of crime and disorder, the prevention of public nuisance, public safety, and the protection of children from harm. And this is on the premises and the establishment which is holding the license. We cannot entertain or consider any other factors outside that. This is licensing only and not for other matters.
And therefore, what recourse is there for alarmed residents to actually, what shall I say, query with the relevant highways agency the wisdom or the potential danger of such a decision being made today?
Councillor Parker, do you want to come in?
Sorry, Chair. I just want to be mindful at this moment that obviously we are questions for the licensing team leader.
Mr. Morley, do you have any more questions? We'll come back to your point further on.
Chair, could I just clarify? It probably is simpler to clarify at this point in time. The Licensing Act is very specific as to who our statutory consultees are. They're the police, the fire service, the planning service. They are the Children's Protection Service and a few other bodies, and they do not include the highways. So we are unable to consult with the highways. The highways consultation is part of the planning application or any planning application. And the way that the Licensing Act and the Planning Act work together is that there is no overlap. So any highways considerations would be considered at a planning application stage.
And Mr. Morley, to add to that, should another business set up down the road from the applicant and doing farming or whatever else they're doing, there is little that you can do to control the traffic there. So I'm going to move on because highways issues are not relevant in this hearing.
No, thank you.
Do you have any further questions?
Not at this point, thank you.
Thank you. Can you please drop your hand? You've got your hand up. If you can put your hand down, and then thank you very much. Aileen, anything else you want to add at this time?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Next, I will ask the applicant to present their case, please. So, Elaine, do we have the question in the chat bar from Mr. Conroy, please?
Yeah, Mr. Conroy doesn't have any questions at this stage.
Thank you very much for highlighting that. Thank you, Mr. Conroy. We have got that message. Thank you very much. Mr. and Mrs. Strong, would you like to come in now, please, and present your case?
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello. My name is Penny. I'd like first of all to describe what the premises are. We're an apple farm. A cider farm is what we call it. We grow cider apples, mainly cider apples, approximately 200 tons of cider apples per year. We produce cider, we produce apple juices, we're organically certified, we produce apple cider vinegars and apple syrup, for instance. So we have a good number of products and a range of about 13 different ciders. Up to this past year, 90% of our product has been sold via distributors, wholesale, to the trade. It has been a completely different year, obviously, as you know, that has completely fallen by the wayside. Early in 2020, my son Ryan came up with the idea of, well, why not? Let's try camping. And he put in an application for 14 pictures. These are for seasonal. It's seasonal during the summer, and it is only for 14 tent pitches. So seasonal tent camping only. No caravans, nothing of the kind. We found that it worked really well. And we would like to, and it certainly really helped us, has helped us through this year, helped us to survive. So we would like to continue that, and we actually have in place an application to extend that by a few weeks. We've had a premises license here at the cider farm for the last 10 years. We have was for the provision of alcohol both here on the premises as well as for people to take away. Here at the cider farm, we hold educational events. We sometimes have schools over during the day, so we have children here. We do also have on a regular basis, 3 days a week actually, we hold orchard tours and orchard and cider tours, shall I say, where we might have anything from 4 to 20 people. We take them through a tour of the orchard, talk about apples, talk about the culture of cider house, the history of cider. We take them to, we show them how the cider is made, how the ciders are pressed, etc. It is very much an informative, educational tour lasting about an hour and a half, and which ends in a cider tasting either out on the lawn or indoors. And then finishes off with giving them the opportunity of buying some ciders or juices or some of our produce from the little shop. So we are currently with this variation. We have applied for the alcohol provision to be from 9 o'clock instead of from 10 o'clock, because we have had we have sometimes have people here who come by and say, and we've had to turn them away. They want to buy a couple of bottles, they're on their way home or wherever, and they want to buy a few bottles and they cannot. Similarly, in the evenings, especially in the summertime, our current license runs to 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock in the evening. By that stage, it's still light and people might still be wanting to, buy something, either come in to take something away or to sit. We have a cider garden, which is a very lovely sculpture garden, actually. And so a very lovely place to sit and enjoy a little bit of cider. So also now with so we would like to be able to offer, in the variation, we have asked for the application for the provision of alcohol to be extended up to 11 o'clock, to 2,300 hours. Also, we thought that it would be very nice if we could, we're a small venue. We are not a large venue. We are not intending to have very large events at all. My feeling is that the scale of the whole perspective, it is completely out. It is out of perspective, out of balance. The scale of our intentions have been completely exaggerated out of all proportion, and I doubt if any of those people making a representation have ever even been here. It is, as I say, what we are proposing. We would like to have jazz events. We sometimes have poetry events. We have cultural events. I would like to. I have a friend who is a Spanish dancer. I would like her, for instance, to come and do a Spanish dancing event. We'd like to have a jazz evening. These possible entertainment that we are asking for are relatively small scale, certainly not large events. The only large event that we would have only up to 11 o'clock is what we have applied for. We have the only larger event, and then it's not that large either, has been in the past has been every year we have applied for, we have done the wassail, the annual wassail, and that has been, it starts in mid-afternoon. It's usually in January. It starts in mid-afternoon and carries on through until about 8:30. It is a family event. And so lots of children and dancing, cultural dancing, folk music, live folk music, Morris dancing, etc. Storytelling, mummers plays. So it is sort of good old-fashioned English fun. That attracts approximately about 70 people from the local community at most. I think, but that is it's a once a year event. A once a year event. In previous years, we have applied for TENS notices for that particular festival, so that we could cover the dancing and the live music. There is so on the whole, the scale of the intention is relatively small. Yes, as I say, I think it has been. We've had a very good record. We've had no complaints regarding our premises license, to the extent that people were not even aware that we had a premises license up to this moment. So I think with our good record and the scale, the smaller scale of the event needs to be taken into account. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Oliver, Mr. Strong, did you want to add anything at the moment?
Yeah, sorry. Oliver's not here right now. I'm Ryan.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's quite all right. I'd just like to reiterate what Penny said. It isn't in any intention of ours to have any large raucous events. We live on site 24/7. As of, we're wardens of what goes on here. What we're intending is to, keep it all in line. We work long days. We don't want to be kept up by raucous evenings, honestly. This is where we are. We're outside of the village. We are asking for a license variation, which is 13 hours for the most part, and then only 14 hours for the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
For the Friday, Saturday.
And whilst, other farms nearby, they have a 15-hour license. We're a cider farm. We grow the apples, which are primarily for cider, and I think that should be brought into the understanding of it. Further, this isn't an entertainment venue. We don't want it to be. We just want to have the ability to have the odd, as Penny said, live music venue, jazz piece. We know local musicians. We have no intention of having loud rock music, dare I say, going over the countryside. We are distanced from the village. We've got our own 3,000 odd acre orchard, 3,000 tree orchard, a strong, mature, thick hedge, another 15-acre orchard right next door to us, then a hedge, then a road, then the village. We had spoken to our our closest neighbors down the lane from us, and having spoken to them in depth, they're perfectly fine with it. And we have an understanding that if there are any concerns, we would listen to them and get back to them. I also think it needs to be kept in perspective that initially back in November, we heard that there were some concerns in the village, third hand. Penny wrote a statement and went out to the village, went round to nearly a dozen different people, gave them a letter, a statement, spoke to them in depth. We then almost immediately came back to Samantha Spracklin from the licensing team and significantly reduced the hours and the days that we're wanting to run the live music, every once in a while. This isn't something that we want to run every day that we're allowed to. So I think that needs to be brought up and be brought into proportion. We've listened to the neighbors' concerns and we had conceded our position. We wanted initially to have 7 days a week, say live music, some recorded music playing from a speaker. And I don't mean loud music, I mean, background music. And we'd cut this down from 7 days to just the 4 days. Significantly, we had also cut down the hours from, I think it was midnight. We cut it down to 11 o'clock. Again, we've heard their concerns. We don't want there to be significant issue. We're willing to work with them as responsible premises license holders.
Thank you very much. That's a very clear understanding of what you would like to do. Thank you very much. Councillors, I'm going to come to you now. I'll start with Councillor Parker. Any questions?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mrs. Strong, for adding what your intentions are. And I would like to say that actually all of my questions have been answered. So I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Councillor Heatley.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Strong. I think I'd like to explore a little bit further the scale of what you're doing. We've heard about that you have had kind of one big event a year, the wassail, in the past. I get the impression you may want to have a few more. Equally, you may have smaller events with music, and then there will be the times when there are people in your campsite, pretty much every evening, I guess, in the summer, when you will be serving drinks to them. Now, that latter end, how many people are there likely to be in your campsite who are, so to speak, using your alcohol license all the time without any music?
Not many of them.
Hi there. Hi. During the summer, when we have campers here, we had the opportunity late last summer to trial the camping, which was also over the bank holiday. Over the bank holiday period, we were full to the brim. We had maybe about at utmost we had approximately 30 people. They didn't all stay here because we do encourage the people to go to the local pub, which is not far away. It's just in the very small walking distance in the village, and so that people go and eat there. We had our closest neighbour, Mr. Seb King, and his wife. They came over during that very, very busy weekend, the August bank holiday weekend, and they were really impressed as to how relaxed the atmosphere was. It was quiet, it was relaxed. We have people in the sculpture garden, in the cider garden, as we call it, enjoying some cider. So it is certainly not a large. It is not a large area, and there's no raucous drinking, no raucous behaviour. Sorry, did I answer all your?
Well, I mean, you may have 30 people on the campsite, but they won't all be drinking, presumably. There'll be quite a lot of children. how many people are likely to be customers for your alcohol?
If I may, the alcohol license, the cider farm campsite is adults only. We're aware that it is in the midst of an orchard, and that adds to the peacefulness of it all. However, the campsite is adults only. This is a step we took because really we don't want toddlers and what have you running around the orchard. But no, we're also aware that it is a licensed premises, and we want to work within those bounds.
Councillor Heatley, has your question been answered?
Yeah, I think so. I think I have a picture now of all of what will go on.
Thank you. Do you have any further questions?
No, thanks.
Team leader, do you have any, licensing team leader, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, thank you, Chair. I don't at this time.
Thank you. As before, we have no responsible parties. I'm now going to go to the people who have made representations, and I would please ask you to confine your questions to particular questions to the applicant when you can ask them in person directly. So I'm going to call you each in turn. And Mr. Conroy, if you have any particular questions before I get to you, can I ask that you type them in the text bar, please? Or if you have no questions, equally type in no questions. So I'm now going to go through my list, please. Yvonne Dobson, please. Any questions for the applicant?
Oh, hello. Yes, please. I would like to ask. You've already mentioned that in a previous meeting that you were going to insulate the premises where you intend the entertainment to take place. But as far as I can see, that your buildings are all agricultural use only. Barns. So which will you be applying for the appropriate planning permissions to enable you to change the use from agricultural to, I guess, hospitality/entertainment?
Thank you, Yvonne Dobson, for that question. I'm not sure if that's relevant on this occasion. Lara, can you confirm, please? That's a planning issue, not a licensing matter.
Yes, Chairman, that any change of use is a planning matter rather than a licensing matter. That's correct.
So that is not relevant to be asked on this occasion?
No, not on this occasion.
Yvonne Dobson, do you understand that? It's a planning matter, not a licensing issue, and we cannot ask that question because we cannot, we have no power over that area.
No, okay, well that was my question really for Mr. and Mrs. Strong. I would also say, I think, people find it quite hard to come and complain about noise to you directly. I have done so in the past after a very late and loud party there. But can you reassure me that people will be met, with a kindly response if we do feel the need to go there? It's very difficult if things are going on very late into the night to go out to say you need to turn the music down, but what measures are you going to take to ensure that those in the neighbouring vicinity will not be suffering a nuisance, and our business as well, because we run a holiday cottage? How can I be sure that my guests won't be disturbed by what's going on just a few hundred metres away from us? Thank you.
Hi there, Yvonne. Hi, it's Penny. I can reassure you there. You are most welcomed at any time to come and come and talk to us, and you will always have a good response. I will give you my number if you're needing. Also, my number is on the website, on our Cider Farm the Dorset Nectar website. But I will personally drop off my number, my mobile number, which is not on there. And you're most welcome to call me at any time if there is any any disturbance. We aim to have a relaxed, classy, a classy place. We really are not aiming to have a huge raucous venue with mega parties. We are not those kind of people. I think we've had one party over the last 8 years, and I think that was the party you were alluding to. But otherwise, we prefer to. We also put in long hours working here at the cider farm. And so we prefer to have an atmosphere which is, subdued, controlled, and we would like to do that. I would like to say regarding your people that you might have there, we do work closely with other people, with other campsites in the area, like Pineapple Estate, like Bingham, and other B&Bs, and we are actually an attraction for you, because people come to the cider tours, for instance. I will provide you with my number if there's any problem. But
Penny Strong, can I come in? It's the chair, Les Fry here. Fry. Is that something that you could consider publicising a contact number for all the local residents who may have concerns about the noise, and something there to reassure them that you will take action if and when appropriate?
Absolutely, Mr. Fry. I can do that. I can supply them with our telephone our numbers and emails, etc. That is no problem. We have shown in the past that we have been very cooperative, and we have listened to their concerns, and we have acted on those concerns.
Thank you very much, Yvonne Dobson. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Do you have any further questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. Roger Miles, please. Any questions?
Can I raise two things? I'm pleased to hear Penny saying that if we have any concerns or comments, we will be met with a considered response. I have to say that I have commented on things about the cider farm in the past once, and was met with quite a hostile response, and was told that this was a business, we are running a business, we pay taxes, we employ local people, and you have to put up with it. Now, if that attitude, I'm afraid, I didn't find very constructive. I'm not here. I want to sit here and enjoy a quiet retirement. And I want also to be able to raise a concern if I have a concern, and to be listened to. I don't want to sit here and raise concerns just for the sake of it. If I raise a concern, it will be because something is happening that is enjoying my quiet enjoyment of my property. And I would very much expect and like to be listened to and be met with a considered and polite response. So I'm pleased to hear that that is what is going to happen going forward. I find myself completely confused about the relationship between premises licensing and planning. And as people have said, we live in an area of West Dorset, which is part of the area of outstanding natural beauty. I took a moment the other day to look up on the Dorset Council website what the area of outstanding natural beauty means to Dorset Council. And Dorset Council on the website declares that the area of outstanding natural beauty is not only a matter of visual impressions, it is also a matter of tranquility.
Mr. Miles, sorry, I'm going to stop you there at the moment, because I will give you an opportunity in a minute. At the moment, I've got any questions for the applicant, please, that you've got particularly about their presentations, and you will have your opportunity shortly to put your case and your concerns and your any extra things you would like to add.
Okay, well, my main concern for the applicant, as I said, was to be heard in a reasonable way if we as neighbours have any concerns going forward as to what's going on. If that's an undertaking that's being given publicly here now, then fine. Then no further questions.
Penny or Ryan Strong, do you want to comment on that, please? Is Penny still in the meeting? Is the applicant still in the meeting? Can you see Elaine or Aileen? Or
They seem to have dropped out at the moment.
Yeah, I was going to say I can't see them.
I think we should just suspend the meeting till they come back in.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll just pause one, Mr. Miles.
As I understand it, the incident you're talking about is when a truck on a handful of deliveries a year, larger deliveries to the cider farm, it got stuck when it specifically did not go the way we asked it to, and again it was that's beside the point. But no, yes, we've always been very open to hearing people's concerns. And as what happened back in November when we went out and spoke to everybody, and I believe I spoke to you and your wife Linda again just before Christmas time, when I brought up how we had listened to your concerns and reduced it. We had acted and we had reduced what we were after.
What I'm asking for, Ryan, is if we ring up or come round, we'll be met in a reasonable way. Is that what you're saying?
I think that's quite fair. I think that's quite a fair thing to ask, Roger. And yes, I can reassure you that you will be met in a fair way.
Because based on the response that I had with regard to and we don't need to go into the incident that Ryan was referring to, but based on the response that I had on that occasion, it was not pleasant, it was not reasoned, and I wasn't listened to at all.
Okay, I think Mr. Miles, thank you very much for that. Penny and Ryan, thank you very much. Mr. Miles, any further points to add a question?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mike Conroy, can we hear you, or is there a question, Elaine?
There is a question from Mr. Conroy. He asks, would the applicant agree not to have amplified music outside after 2300 hours?
I think that's a condition anyway, isn't that right, Aileen?
Hi there. Hi, it's Penny. It is a condition that we agreed to with environmental health, and it is we made a noise assessment and a noise management plan and submitted that to environmental health. They suggested that we put that a condition on, and this was in I think it was late November or early December that we did this. And so there is a condition that there will be no amplified music outdoors after 11 o'clock.
Thank you very much, Penny. Mr. Conroy, are you happy with that? Just thumbs up if you're happy with that. Any further questions? Thank you very much. If you could, Mr. Mr. Morley, any questions, please?
Yes, please. I sit here somewhat confused because
Is it questions for the applicant or rather than anybody else? Because I will give you your chance to make a statement or any points you wish to raise in a minute, but it's particular questions to the applicant, please.
Okay, I'll leave it for now.
That's fine. Thank you very much. I think that's all the people there at the moment. Thank you very much. We've no responsible body to speak, so I'm now going to go through, ask any person who's made a representation and has indicated they wish to speak on their attendance notice to address the subcommittee. May I remind each person that the subcommittee has read all the papers before them, including all letters of representation, and you're asked not to repeat anything that is already in your representation, although you may amplify it. So I'm going to invite each person to speak in turn. Yvonne Dobson, please, first.
Hello, I don't want to repeat the representation I've already made, and you've advised us against that. But I think one thing that hasn't really been talked about is the possible negative effect on our local pub, the Hare and Hare.
And I can answer that one. Yvonne Dobson, I can answer that. We cannot take that into account at all, I'm afraid.
You can't.
I do understand your concerns, but it's a free market out there. We cannot take that into account, I'm afraid.
Okay. Well, you know, we will just hope that the resulting light and noise pollution from these further endeavours of the Strong's Orchard will not be have too negative an impact if this licence is granted. And we will obviously know where to come if we are affected, which I think we probably would be. But thank you for the hearing.
Thank you very much. I'm going to. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Parker, any questions for Yvonne Dobson?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just have one question. Thank you for attending the meeting this morning, Mr. Dobson. Can you just clarify as to how close a proximity that you live to the premises and obviously your holiday let as well?
About 300 metres. I think it's about the away. We're probably and we have in the past. We haven't always complained about it because it's been a bit of a one-off if we've had noise in the past, but that because everyone expects people to have a party every now and then, but we are expecting to. We know how noise travels in the countryside, and we are expecting to suffer noise disturbance. And I don't quite know how I'm going to explain that away to people staying in our holiday cottage. You'll have to have your windows closed and things like that. So we are fairly close, and notwithstanding the trees and the hedges, we can hear things going on up there, people shrieking, dogs barking, times they've had music there.
With regards to if the licence obviously was granted, does it appease you at all that obviously that there is obviously that connection there now, that should there be any real issue on your part, that you would be able to contact the owners and raise that issue with them?
That is reassuring. Like I say, we haven't always had very positive responses in the past. That has been a feeling sort of in the neighbourhood, but I'm reassured to hear that Penny will try and make those connections. But that's a reassurance, but I'm still not reassured that our quality of life and that what we offer our guests is not going to be negatively affected.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any further
questions? I have no further
questions,
questions, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Heatley.
No, Councillor Parker has basically asked my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Aileen, team leader, licensing team leader, any questions for Yvonne Dobson?
No, thank you. No questions.
Penny and Ryan Strong, any questions for Yvonne Dobson?
Not a question right now per se, but just a response to what she was saying. We are happy to work with, and we have been in the midst of this licensing variation application, working with Environmental Health, the licensing committee, Samantha Spracklin, we have a visit from a member of the fire department. We have a member of the police come by, and what have you. And we've been working with them to ensure that the premises, the location is appropriate, and changes are made per se to make it sure. We have. In regards to your earlier comment about planning and possible change of use, we'd spoken to planning. It's not within their bounds, and it is not due a planning application, as it is agricultural and what have you, and it is more than 90% of the products are going to be our own. Because that's what it is. That's what it is. We are happy to work within conditions and what have you to limit sound. However, sorry, I would just make one last statement about the pub. There is no way that we would take business from the pub. In fact, speaking to previous publicans, we are an asset to their business. We make business for them, as Penny said earlier, as being an attraction for our cider farm tour and tastings, the camping, what have you. Their live music licensing goes until 2 a.m. for the live music, for the recorded music, for the dancing, for the say the odd sporting events. I think that's a bit longer inside, but that's all outdoor. Their license for alcohol, may I remind everybody, is 24 hours. We are asking for substantially less, and our intentions are low key.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to go through the other people who are here on this meeting at the moment. Mr. Miles, any questions for Yvonne Dobson?
No.
Thank you. Mr. Conroy, if you could type in the question bar, please. Do you have any questions for Yvonne Dobson? Thumbs up, yes, and type, or
No.
shake your head and no.
I can advise on that one, Chairman. He has no further points to raise.
Thank you very much. Mr. Morley?
No.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Yvonne Dobson. I appreciate your being here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks.
We will now move on to Mr. Miles. Roger Miles, would you like to come up, please?
Yep. Yeah, I won't repeat what I was going to, the intro, or what I started trying to say earlier, but yeah, I am sort of slightly confused about the impact of this activity on the AONB. I did read, as I tried to say, Dorset Council's declared objectives with regard to the AONB on the website, and it talks about, apart from obvious things like scenic beauty, it also talks about tranquility as being an essential feature of the AONB. So I am slightly concerned as to how this sort of activity in the open air for the hours proposed will conflict with that declared objective of the AONB. Secondly, I am slightly confused as to how premises licensing and planning interact. And I think one of you committee members said that you consult with planning as part of the process. I'm not quite sure if I misheard that, but I would refer you to a vineyard half a mile to the north of Waytown, so about a mile from this site, which started a year or two ago, and back end of last year and considered in January this year, that vineyard applied to change the use of its agricultural buildings to industrial class E for the production of cider, wine, and beer. Now, I don't know why they did that and how it interacts with what's proposed on this site, but that permission to change use to Class E was granted, and it was granted with a condition that says no other ancillary use to that production, such as a farm shop, tasting events, etc., is permitted. And the reason given is to allow the local planning authority to control future intensified use of the buildings, yard, and access to enable monitoring of the impact on the SNCI, the AONB, and the public right of way. So it seems to me that that planning application is trying to take into account the impact of industrial production on the AONB, wants to be consulted further with regard to any intention to sell produce, which presumably implies the granting of a premises license. So it all seems to me to be in conflict to what's being considered here.
I particularly can't comment on the individual case that you're mentioning because we have no knowledge and we would want to see a lot more information. But as an officer,
it's in the public domain. It's on the website.
Yeah, and there's lots of information in the public domain. But we can only constrain ourselves here to issues of licensing, and so a license could be granted to a premise that may not have planning consent to do the appropriate action. Equally, planning can give permission to do the licensing opportunities, the license activity, but if it doesn't get a license to do the license premises, so it's a little bit of a complicated matter that we are unable to answer on this panel here. So Aileen, would you like to answer any further on that, please?
Yes, Chair, I'm more than happy to provide some clarification. The planning and the licensing functions run alongside each other and they can't overlap. So we can't use licensing functions to enforce any planning matters. Planning have their own set of constraints, their own regulations, their own rules that they have to abide by. And they are the keepers or the protectors of the AONBs and the SSIAs and all that sort of thing. For a person to be able to operate, they will need both the planning permission and a license. There is no regulation and we have very strict guidance as to the fact that they don't have to apply for one before the other. They can do it in any order they want, but in order to operate, they need both. And we can't use one piece of legislation to enforce the other because there are enforcements in planning for that matter. That said, we are a consultee on planning matters. We rarely comment, and planning are a consultee on all licensing applications. So the planning department have seen this application and they have given us no comment at all on this one.
Okay. So a license can be granted for a premises that do not necessarily have the planning consents.
Yes.
That you might expect to be in place.
Yes.
Yes, and then you couldn't use the Licensing Act to enforce the lack of planning. You'd have to use the planning enforcement route in order to enforce that lack of planning.
But in this case, you have made the appropriate inquiries and been assured and not had any negative response.
We've had no comment back from the planning department within the time frame, which is what we are required to do.
I see. Well, those are my comments. So I'm afraid I don't understand the logic of the world, if you see what I mean. It doesn't seem to be joined up.
How long have you got, Mr. Miles?
Well, probably I would never want to be a councillor or what have you.
I'm happy to take that offline and discuss if you want further later on.
It makes life very interesting.
I'm an accountant by profession and I'm used to the world being...
that explains a lot. You're used to an accurate world where figures add up and things happen, and this is planning and licensing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does the applicant have any questions for Mr. Miles at all?
Yes, please. Again, if I may, rather than a question, a response. We had, as licensing had, as Mr. Fry, Councillor Fry had said, we had consulted planning in regards to the licensing application. We are not breaking any planning regs, and we did not need planning permission for the license for what the licensing is to do with. Our cider is an agricultural product. The orchard is an agricultural, holding, and likewise wine is an agricultural product on vineyards and agricultural holding. As to the application you're referencing down in Slapelands, that's vineyard cum brewery. They are, if you take a look at the application closer, those buildings are for brewing. on the actual building specs. It's for industrial class E change of use, those which is what they're asking for on those buildings, is to do with brewing. For cider making, wine making, that's agricultural. It's not to do with the industrial class E, and hence it does not have to do with us.
Sorry, I don't understand, because the application and the permission notice refer to the production of cider, wine and beer. And the application talks about how they are going to plant apple trees and they are going to plant hops.
Yes, if you look at the the drawing as to what they're planning to do with inside the building, then you'll see them writing brewing all over it. That's not to do with us, and it's as you know, we're not building a brewery here, sir. This is cider making. Cider making is agricultural, and the licensing is completely, what we're going through here with the variation is completely all right with the planning associated with it. We've been through this all with planning team and the environment, not the environmental health, the building control as well. We had ticked those boxes. We've been in conversation with them.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to just briefly sum up. You've been the applicant's been in consultation with the planning department and found they do not need planning permission for this. The other one that has been mentioned is carrying out a brewing activity, which is different from this one, so does need planning permission to do so, which they have applied for. In a nutshell, that is it. Mr. Mars, any further questions?
No, I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for attending today.
Are we sort of signed off now? Then I'm not sure.
No, you can go back. Just turn your camera off, microphone. I've got a few more people to go to through yet at the moment.
But do we wait for you to make a decision today, or what happens?
What happens is we will then go into recess after we've spoken to everybody and had everybody's points of view. We go into recess and consider all the facts that have been put before us today, and then make a decision later today.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Conroy. Have you got any questions at all? Would you like to make a statement, or can you put something in the chat bar for us? Councillor Parker, do you want to come in a minute?
Yes. Could I possibly ask a question of Mr. Miles, please?
Sorry, my mistake. My mistake. Mr. Miles.
Yeah, hello.
Hello, Mr. Miles. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. Similar question that I asked the last resident. What sort of proximity is your residence in to the licensed premises?
About the same, probably.
Yeah, okay. And again, did it appease you slightly today that should you contact the owners with any concerns that you have, that you will get met with a civil response, and hopefully it's something that you could go forward with in the future to resolve this between yourselves?
It gave me assurance, but it's not the way I want to live my life. Put it that way. I don't want the potential for the quiet enjoyment of my property to be disturbed. I don't want the aggravation of having to complain to anybody. I want to live my life quietly, have people not impinge on other people, and to have other people not impinge on me. So I don't like the idea of having to complain if need arises. I would rather that were not the case.
Yeah.
But if there is, and I don't see that that's that doesn't justify to me what's being applied for. It doesn't make it any better.
Okay.
But it makes me feel it's good to hear. That's all I can say. But it doesn't in any way obviate the concerns that have been raised, to put it that way.
Okay, well, thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate that, and thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you.
Mr. Miles, my apologies. I didn't give the others an opportunity to ask any questions. That's my error, just getting.
No, not at all.
Thank you. Councillor Heatley.
No, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Applicants, do you have any questions for Mr. Miles?
Go ahead.
No questions right now. However, Mr. Miles, I would assure you that if you would like to talk further on this, you are most welcome to call us up.
I don't want to talk further, thank you. No, I want to get on and live my life and enjoy life. I don't want to debate all this for the rest every other day, thank you.
Of course, sir.
Thank you.
Neither do we.
Aileen, any questions?
No, thank you, Chair. Just that if there are any problems, we will be here and we will listen to them.
Thank you.
Do you have a contact number then?
We do have contact numbers, yes. I will make sure you are supplied with them.
Thank you very much.
Yvonne Dobson, any questions for Mr. Miles?
None, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Conroy? Any questions for Mr. Miles? Thank you very much. Mr. Morley?
No.
Thank you very much. Mr. Miles, thank you for being here. Yeah, we appreciate your time today, but yeah, you can just turn your camera off and microphone off and we will continue, but thank you.
Oh, can I go, you mean?
I guess you can if you want to. You don't have to stay. It's nice to see you anyway. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you for your patience.
Okay, and now, Mr. Conroy, do you have any questions at all or wish you to say anything? If you want to type anything, you particular concerns you have, we understand you have technical problems. We can see you, but if you want to type them in the bar for Elaine, the Democratic Services Officer, to pick up.
There's no comments at the moment, Chairman, but I'll keep an eye on it.
Thank you very much, Elaine. Mr. Conroy, thank you for taking your patience on this. If you do have any concerns, please type them in and we will pick them up as soon as we can. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Conroy at all? Councillor Parker?
Yeah, again, it was only just to ask as to what proximity Mr. Conroy lives within the premises. If you'd like to put that in the chat bar, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
$350 metres.
Yeah, I've just seen it. Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you very much. Councillor Heatley?
I'm just trying to think what 350 metres means. I think it was Yvonne Dobson who referred to the cider farm as being up the hill, and I'm just wondering whether the sound is travelling perhaps rather further than we might expect. Because people are up. The farm is up the hill and the residents, mainly in Waytown, are kind of down the hill. Is it either?
Mr.
I'm sorry.
Conroy's typing. Mr. Conroy's.
Yeah.
I think I understand your question. Mr. Conroy's typing now, so Elaine will come back to us very shortly.
Okay.
I see your hand, Penny Strong. I'll come to you shortly. Thank you. Elaine, have we got a question or comment?
Yeah, he says this is a quiet area with any noise travelling a considerable distance. We hear the cider farm dogs regularly.
Thank you very much. Penny Strong, would you like to comment on that, please? Or Ryan?
Hi there. Hi, it's Penny. Mr. Mr. Conroy is in the village. There's a slight hill, and we are situated. The cider farm buildings are situated on the other side of the hill, so slightly down. as I say, a slight hill, and we're on the other side of the hill. I need to just make everyone aware that there is a pub within the village of Waytown itself, which is a lot closer to these Mrs. Dobson and Mr. Morley and Mr. Miles. So a lot closer, and that pub is licensed for a full 24 hours, and it is licensed for entertainment up to 2 a.m. in the morning, without any conditions, and so that is within about 150 meters to them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Conroy. Does that answer your so Councillor Heatley, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Aileen, do you have any questions for Mr. Conroy?
No, thank you, Chair.
Applicants, do you have any questions for Mr. Conroy?
No questions right now, thank you. But again, we're welcome to have a chat with him further if there are concerns.
Thank you very much. Yvonne Dobson, any questions for Mr. Conroy?
No, thank you.
Mr. Miles? Roger Miles, do you have any questions at all?
No, sorry.
Thank you very much. Mr. Morley, any questions for Mr. Conroy?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conroy, and I thank you for your patience and your excellent typing skills today. It's appreciated. Thank you. Mr. Morley.
Yes, I sit here somewhat bemused because in the last several weeks, months, we have been contemplating as local residents to the orchard this fear of the extended alcohol licensing hours, but that is not our concern. The concern is the introduction of live entertainment, which has never occurred really seriously on this site before. But we have sat here somewhat content with a fallback position that is this site is a license, has planning consent for agricultural purposes only. Now, as we sit here at 11:30 now today, it seems to me that on one side of the corridor in your council offices, there is a planning function which has always maintained that it is an agricultural site only. And yet we're in danger in a matter of hours of finding on the other side of the corridor, the Alcohol Licensing Committee will have granted a completely different use for the site. And whilst I appreciate this meeting is purely to consider the licensing application, I fully understand that. But I would hope you fully appreciate that as residents and council taxpayers, etc., we are utterly confused how the two can sit together. And I suppose, this is a plaintive cry for, well, how do we reconcile this situation? What path is there possibly open for us? Because had there been a planning application to change the use of site, then there would have been a far greater opposition from the local community. So that is what is concerning me.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask Aileen shortly to comment on your question, but your fears are really about something that hasn't happened yet. And we in the licensing cannot comment on what has not happened. We have to look at, and the same with planning largely looks at actually what has happened, the evidence. And that's why I'm really pleased to see that the applicants are opening a conduit for dialogue with any concerns that local residents may have about issues. And there is, as we've previously said, the issue of complaints to the council and other agencies such as the police authorities and extra to deal with issues there. But at the moment, we can only deal with issues that are in front of us. Aileen, would you like to come in and talk about the two issues, the planning and licensing conditions again, please?
Certainly, Chair. It is confusing that the council has a planning authority and a licensing authority within it. We have to operate our regulations as per our regulations. We can't, as licensing, we can't stray into planning regulations. However, that said, we do work very closely with our planning colleagues. So if a complaint comes into us that is more planning related than it would be licensing related, we will pass it on to our planning colleagues. We have got premises within the district that we are in constant contact with planning department. They are few and far between, but we can do it and we will do it. We do talk to each other and we do help each other and we do offer assistance to each other and help each other to know which regime the complaint actually relates to. But as for enforcement and conditions, we have to stick to all the regulations and the law that we operate under in our separate departments.
So Aileen, just to clarify, and I understand the confusion that some of our people on this panel and others have as well. So Mr. Morley could decide to build himself a new pub in Waytown. He could apply for planning permission to build his pub.
Yes.
But then it might be that he doesn't get a premises license to open as a pub.
Yes. That is
On
correct.
the other hand, he could also decide he wants to open a pub. He gets his premises license to open his pub, but then he doesn't get planning permission to change for the change of use. So he falls foul of that one.
Yes.
Do you understand that, Mr. Morley? I understand it is confusing. I just wanted that little scenario so that it would help clarify things.
Yeah, yes, I understand that. Thank you very much for the clarity of the response. And so when you say change of use, I mean, presumably that would be the only recourse for residents, which is to approach again the planning function in terms of change of use, which is going through by the back door, if I might say, at today's meeting.
I wouldn't call it the back door, Aileen, sorry to come in. I wouldn't call it the back use because I understand the applicant's comments that their primary function is the growing and production of apple for cider. The selling of alcohol is ancillary. It's a minor activity. And I know we're talking about the number of hours, but the actual scheme of the amount that they're selling on site will be minimal compared with the amount that they're producing. Is that correct, Aileen? Would you want to clarify?
I'm not a planning expert. I don't pretend to be a planning expert. Planning restrictions are complicated and there are certain permitted uses and all sorts of things that can allow temporary use and so many days per year, etc., etc. So that is why we have to stick very clearly to our own areas of legislation, because I understand the Licensing Act inside and out, but not the planning.
I have a little bit of knowledge of planning enforcement in a past life. Yes. So I absolutely understand. So the situation of growing and the preparation of apple and cider is the main business. It's agriculture. The actual selling of the amount of cider in the grand scheme of things is ancillary. It's minor added to that fact. So it's not a backdoor. It's written in this thing. What is the primary function?
All right, thank you. Sorry for the loose language.
No, I'd rather you raise the issues because everybody on this meeting, well, if you've got questions, then please ask them. We're here to answer your concerns and fears. And we see this as part of helping you and everybody on this meeting to resolve your concerns and fears about what may or may not be. And it's very interesting to listen to all of your comments. So thank you for your time. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Well, just one point which every other person has been asked. We are located 350 metres across the field to the orchard, which actually is on the brow of a hill. The reason we hear the noise is very clear. It's to the west. We are to the west of it. And with the westerly wind, I do mean the west, or do I mean the east? When a west wind is blowing, which is the majority of the time, it is blowing from the orchard to our house. And that is why we heard the campers during that trial period last year.
Thank you very much. So anything else you would like to add at the moment, Mr. Morley, before I invite everybody to ask you questions and we put you in the mastermind chair?
No further points, thank you.
Councillor Heatley, I'll start with yourself. Any questions for Mr. Morley?
Yeah, I think that means you live to the east.
That is correct.
And I'm looking at my map now. Right. No, I don't. I can understand how the noise may carry further because of the hill, but it is a way of helping me interpret what 350 meters means. Thank you.
Yes, right. Can I just say, I forgot to mention, we are more than 350 metres from the Hare and Hounds, and the Hare and Hounds in its long history has never ever caused friction in the village, particularly because it counts the villagers as its customers and has always lived in good harmony with them, recognising that it's give and take in terms of having such an establishment amongst residential properties.
Thank you for your comments. I don't think, I mean, I'm not aware of friction. We welcome your comments to come into this meeting today. It's right and it's democratic that we listen to people's fears and concerns, and that the applicant also has a chance to listen to them and also to respond to people's fears. So this is the proper democratic process. And that's why I'm very keen on we answer any concerns and fears that you or others may have through this process.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Morley, and appreciate your comments. Obviously, you've answered my questions, which was going to be the same as everybody else as to your proximity to the premises. Just would like to add a comment, really, for Mr. Morley. Yes, it is a very difficult regime between planning and licensing to get your head around, and it's probably like trying to untangle a ball of wool, I suppose. It's very, very difficult, but I'd just like you to be mindful that should any changes be made to this license, that obviously there are ways and means for you to contact the licensing team and raise any concerns that you should have, as Aileen has said before, and obviously your concerns will be listened to. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Aileen, do you have any questions for Mr. Morley?
No, thank you, Chair.
Penny or Ryan, applicants, do you have any questions for Mr. Morley, please?
Yes, hello, hi. I think first of all, I would like to allay his fears. I think that neighbours from Waytown have really they think we're making a huge big entertainment venue, and I think that their fears are unfounded. What we are intending is on a very, very really low-key minor scale. The taster room that we have is for one. It is not a pub, and neither are we trying to become a pub. We will offer the provision of drink and be able for people to be able to sit in the cider garden. However, the inside of the taster room is more of a shop which sells our produce. And it does have the provision of somewhere to sit, but it is mainly it does both. So we're not trying to say that we're a pub, and it is certainly very, very minor on the scale of the activities of what we do here. But it has been very helpful, and it is certainly helping us to get through and survive this year.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments there. Thank you. Yvonne Dobson, do you have any questions for Mr. Morley?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Miles, Roger Miles, any questions for Mr. Morley? Mr. Miles, are you there? Mr. Conroy, any questions for Mr. Morley? Elaine, can you just check?
Mr. Conroy's left the meeting, Chairman.
Right, thank you very much for updating me there. Mr. Morley, thank you for your time. I think that's it for the moment.
Thank you.
Penny and Ryan, you've got your hand up. Is that further questions or is that a legacy?
Not sure what you mean to that account, but it was just to return upon what Penny had just said. We are, as you said, an apple farm. The apples are specifically cider apples, albeit the primary product there therefore is cider. It is all of it an agricultural enterprise, and the primary means of making a living from the cider, the apples specific to cider, is with an alcohol license. As you were saying, and as Penny has reiterated, 90% of what we do is not sales on site, and we do not intend it to be. So.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your comments. I'm now just going to give everybody the opportunity to sum up their words, and I'm going to start in the backwards, and I'm going to go back through the list very quick there. Mr. Morley, would you like to sum up your comments, please, what you've said today? Any concerns, any thoughts, or have you said what you would like to say?
I've said everything I would like to say. I just sincerely hope that all of the assurances given by the Strongs will come to fruition. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Conroy has left the meeting. So, Mr. Miles, are you there? Roger Miles?
Yes, I don't think I have anything to add. I would just be repeating myself. I'm afraid I leave the meeting totally bewildered as to how planning and licensing operate, but that just seems to be the way of the world.
Thank you very much for your time and your comments. Yvonne Dobson.
Well, thank you for hearing and reading our concerns. I think, like you, still have some fears and reservations, especially recall that in the application they talk about playing amplified rock music. They've talked about having weddings, which are in no way small scale affairs, you know, so I suppose it just remains to be seen whether this is going to be something we can live with, or whether it has a huge impact on our lives, which I sincerely hope not. But thank you for hearing our case.
Thank you very much for your time today. It is appreciated. Ryan and Penny Strong, do you want to sum up your comments, please? Any thoughts?
Would you like to go ahead?
Yes, I would get back to quickly again regarding how we've always been open to speaking to people. More often than not, over the last 12 years that we've been here, we've heard third hand that people are saying things about us, and it's not very helpful conversation-wise to solve problems. But no, we are happy to work with environmental health, any part of the council, to ensure that our excellent record, having a premises license for over 10 years, no complaints. We're happy to work with conditions and what have you, and put things in place to ensure that minimal nuisance or what have you, should it happen, occurs. Not that we see it being so. As to the planning concerns people seem to continue to bring up, I understand their conundrum. It's been a learning process, to say the least, for us, navigating it ourselves. But no, we have ticked boxes with planning. We had, as you know, Mr. Fry has spoken with them, and we do not need a change of use as a cider farm. As I said, you know, licensed premises, and we do not intend to have large scale festivals, what have you, in reference to a rock festival. That's not what we want to do. I think everything needs to be brought back into perspective, and the scale not exaggerated due to people's concerns. I understand their concerns. However, we're not asking for a massive extension for our alcohol license. It's less than both other local licensed premises. We don't want to have very loud events per se on a regular basis. The license that we're asking for gives us the opportunity to do so not that we intend to do it regularly. Say every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, have a jazz quadruplet. That is not our intentions. If there are any other concerns, please do let us know.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Aileen, would you like to sum up, please? Any comments you would like to make?
Yes, Chair, actually, I do want to make two comments. One is, I think one of the most important things for you to consider here is the size and the scale and the nature of the operation that's being proposed. And the other thing I would like to say actually relates to planning and licensing. One of the big differences between planning and licensing is the ease with which licensing can enforce the license. Once a planning permission is granted, it's actually quite difficult, quite a lengthy process in order for that to be enforced. But anything that is on the license can be easily enforced, and a license can be changed at a review at any time and on a repeated basis. So a license is much easier to change and deal with.
But a license review does have to be evidenced by complaints and issues, so the facts have to be there.
Yes.
And a one-off would not necessarily cause a review of a license. It would probably be trying to change, generally speaking, anyway.
No, I wouldn't actually specify that, because a one-off could result in a review of a license. There is no restriction on who and when a license can be reviewed. It is supposed to be the key method by which the community can influence the licenses. So it's a very free thing, and we will give advice at the time if there are complaints, when there are complaints, about how that could go forward if it was necessary, or we would obviously try and talk to the applicants first.
Thank you, Aileen. Okay, I'm now going to ask the legal advisor, Lara, if all relevant points have been addressed. Lara.
Yes, I think they have, Chairman. I've got nothing to add.
Thank you very much. Has everybody had to say? Does anybody else want anything else to say at this time? Councillors? Anybody else want to indicate they want to speak or say anything further than what they've already said? In which case, the public part of the meeting will now conclude. The subcommittee will consider its decision in private with the Democratic Services Officer in remote attendance and the legal advisor who may be called to offer guidance. The decision of the licensing subcommittee shall be communicated to the parties and made available on the council's website as soon as it's practicable and within the prescribed limit of 5 working days. And you do have a right of appeal, and you have 21 days to appeal against that decision if you're not happy with it. Laura, have I said everything I need to say?
Yes, I think so, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for attending this morning. I appreciate your time, your comments and your concerns, and hopefully you feel that you've been listened to and that we have taken your concerns and thoughts into account. We will now finish this meeting and we will go into private recess in the pre-meet, Brian, that we had earlier.
I propose that we go into the closed session, Chair.
Thank you very much. And we will now go into closed session. Thank you very much.